It's time for The Big Show with Andy Gallo and Country Jim.
Hello, everybody. I'm Andy Gallo.
And I'm Country Jim.
And welcome to The Big Show. And we've got our guest spot today with Leslie Sloan. And Leslie Sloan, now that last name is kind of familiar.
I've known her all her life.
Uh-huh. I figured you had. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here. You know, I've heard you play the fiddle. You do a great, fantastic job. When's the first time you picked up that instrument?
Thank you. I started playing when I was 5, and actually I started playing on a little Cracker Jack box. It was a Cracker Jack box attached to a ruler. And
now, did Country Jim put that together for you, or is that something?
That's a good question. I don't even remember. I think our teacher gave it to us, but okay. I studied classically, learning the Suzuki method, and but growing up, my whole family played bluegrass music. And so that was just kind of something that was always in my head and ears. And I learned all that by ear. So I was simultaneously learning classical and bluegrass and country all at the same time. So
now, is that something you wanted to do? Or did Dad say, you know what, you really need to pick up an instrument?
No, that was something actually I wanted to do. Okay. I was in first grade, and there was this girl that, for show and tell, she played the violin. And I was like, I want to play that, and so. Okay, cool. The rest is history.
So the difference between a violin and a fiddle is one has strings and the other one has strings. That's the difference?
That's the difference.
I don't know. That's Ricky Skaggs' joke. I thought I'd throw that in there. But anyway, go ahead. What?
Well, I want to hear more about the journey. I was doing a gig in Jeffersontown, Kentucky. We were living in Louisville. And the first time I remember her playing on stage, she must have been only about 5 or 6 maybe. And I was doing an old Bill Monroe song, and she got up on stage and played it reasonably well.
A little bit squeaky probably, but...
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's something about, listening to music and hearing it all your life. I mean, heck, hearing it in the womb. Mm-hmm. That if you have a natural bent towards it, it's just automatically going to come out. And I had an ability from a very young age to be able to play whatever I could hear, and it's still that way to this day. So.
Did you really enjoy the orchestra? I know you were concert mistress in your high school orchestra.
I did. There was an element of that I really liked. I just, the practicing was something that just wasn't appealing to me because that was kind of more of a forced thing. But the music, there were some pieces that just absolutely just captured my heart as far as classical went. But of course, it was what year was it, that George Jones came out with He Stopped Loving Her Today.
About 81, somewhere along in there, 81. Yeah,
so 81. I remember distinctly, we were driving along in the car, and my dad, the song comes on the radio, and you could just hear the intro. My dad says, you got to hear this song, you got to hear this song. And so he turns it up, and we listen to the song, and I mean, my heart was captured for forever after that. And then right about then was when Ricky Skaggs came out. I fell in love with Ricky Skaggs, of course, George Strait, and that whole neo-traditionalist movement that happened in the 80s. And after that, I mean, my heart was just given over to country music. So,
did you go through a rock and roll period?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I love rock and roll, too. I love classic rock, whether it's Zeppelin or Beatles or, Allman Brothers. But I like any kind of music. But I think there's something about country that has this, everyman story, that there's a song that just absolutely rips your heart out and just lays it right there on the table. Right. And that's what I love about country music.
Speaking of which, you write quite a few songs.
Yeah, I started writing songs in about 2005. I think, though, I had always written songs because I always made them up in my head, but I just, for some reason, didn't make that official or think that I could make that official. I was really inspired by my sister, Leslie Sloan, who's just a fabulous, fabulous, amazing writer. And she started writing songs, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And then I got inspired by that, and then by some other writers that I listened to, especially James Hand was pivotal for me at that time. And just all of a sudden, I was writing about 2 songs a week and was pretty prolific for quite a while.
Wow.
And then, of course, my last 3 albums, I wrote almost all the songs on all those albums. So,
man, that. You know, I guess, and I asked Claude Woolley the same question, but I guess when you have to be in a certain mood to write a song. So, what is it that kind of that puts you in that place that, you know, or how do the lyrics come to you? Are you riding down the road and you go and you're thinking about something and you go, wow, that would be a great song, and that kind of thing? Or how does it?
That is a great question. It is a great question because so I had gone through a little bit of so I was really prolific for a while, and then I guess about 2011, I was just kind of hitting a little bit of a dry spell, and I was just kind of looking for what was I going to do next, some re-inspiration, et cetera. And I got to play at a festival called Crepone over in France. And the headliner was Radney Foster, who was just a huge, huge hero of mine. And I actually got to spend a little bit of time in talking to Radney. And one of the things we talked about was songwriting. Mm-hmm. And he said that his viewpoint towards songwriting and doing songwriting. So he has, like all songwriters or true songwriters, has that element of there's just an inspiration and it comes out of you. But for him, there was also that matter of discipline. And he said that every day he would set an egg timer for 5 minutes and he would just sit down and write. And he said sometimes it would come out as a song, sometimes it would be a poem, sometimes it would just be words, whatever. Mm-hmm. But by doing that every single day, that kind of got him in that mindset and always in that, you know, spirit of writing. For me, I haven't done it that way, and I think I probably could benefit from some of that discipline, as I call it. Mm-hmm. For me, it's always been just an inspiration. Somebody will say a line, and I'll be like, that's the line. Mm-hmm. And I'll start a chorus, and I'll just write it from there. Right. Some things, I've written songs in the middle of fights with boyfriends, literally when they're in the car in 20 minutes.
I think Claude talked about that. Him and his wife had a fight one time, and he wrote this song, "Baby, I'm Sorry." Is that what it was, or something like that?
Yeah. So, I wrote. I have a song called "Turn Around" that's on my "Wrong Is What I Do Best" album, and that was written in about 20 minutes in the middle of a just absolute shutout fight. And
that's not the one that Lisa Lane just covered.
That is the one that Lisa Lane recorded that. Lisa Lane is the one that she was in Vince Vance and the Valiants and did All I Want for Christmas Is You.
She had that one Christmas song that every radio station played all over. I mean, it was such a great song.
It's still like the top 5.
It is.
It's
a big song, and it's really, really interesting. But yeah. Now, you talked about touring. You were in France, so you did some European touring. What was that like?
It was pretty amazing, actually. I've been to France, Norway, Sweden, England, the Shetland Islands, and the interesting thing about that is, so you're at this festival, and there's like a ton of artists. So there may be some Texas artists, there may be Nashville artists, there'll be big, huge headliners. So I've, played festivals with Aaron Tippin and Leanne Womack and Radney Foster. But when you go over there, usually the festival grounds are about a 2-hour journey from the airport. So everybody comes in a lot of times on, flights about the same time, and you all get on the same bus and ride over there. You stay in the same hotel. And so that's just kind of a trip to be sitting on a bus with Aaron Tippin, or you're out on the balcony in Norway and you hear Tanya Tucker talking on her balcony right above you, you know.
Wow.
Because you're just kind of all put in that same kind of category. You feel a little bit like a rock star, but.
So did people find out you were a great instrumentalist and maybe get to play fiddle on some of those acts? Didn't you play fiddle with Bo or somebody, Bo Duke? Or
John Schneider?
Yes, John Schneider.
Yeah.
That was kind of a trip. Yeah, he wanted to do at the end of his set, that was a festival in France. He wanted to do this big kind of finale thing where he got all of the Texas artists up and we were all on stage. And it wasn't Circle Me Unbroken. It was Honky Tonk Woman is what the song was.
Okay, yeah.
And
Rolling Stones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Perfect. So anyway, so I got up there and played fiddle, and there's a picture of me playing fiddle on stage with John Schneider. So
cool.
That was kind of a trip.
Yeah.
So sometimes you went as a solo artist, and the venues or whatever provided a band for you, but sometimes you took your own band. Say a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like touring anywhere, whether you're in the States or out of the States or whatever. Artists do that all the time. I mean, it's nice if you can have your band and be able to afford to take them all over the place. But as we all know, it's tough to make money touring. So a lot of artists, opt to go and have a band that's local, learn their stuff, and back them up on stuff. So. Yeah.
So did you have any good experiences with that, or did you have any really bad experiences with that?
I had interesting experiences with that. Yeah, because sometimes you show up and the band literally had not learned the songs at all.
Interesting.
So I just did it on the fly. I would just, if they had their own set list for their own repertoire, I'd be like, okay, fellas, give me the book. And I'd just flip through and I'd be like, all right, here's the song list and here's what we're doing. Because, bottom line, if you're doing a show in the next 2 days, there's no way anybody's going to be able to learn all of, your material. Right. But it's just about the show must go on, right?
Right.
In the Shetland Islands, you had like a jazz players or something like that?
Yeah, it was cool. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Where are the Shetlands?
It's just north of Scotland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So was there you talk about all the lands that you went to there. I'm thinking there had to be a little communication gap occasionally, or not. I mean, tell me.
Yeah, no, actually most places we didn't have any language issues. I probably had the most difficulty understanding Scottish people.
Even though they speak English, right?
Right.
but you can't it's like some people from England. You can't get it, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, you just.
Hazards of being from Texas, basically, right?
Maybe a little bit more about songwriting as far as nearly all of your material you wrote on your own. You've done a little bit of co-writing?
I only did co-writing in on my very first album. When I started the band in 2004, I looked at it from a professional standpoint, from a record label standpoint, from an independent artist standpoint, and I kind of looked around and saw what was out there. And in order for me to kind of get any kind of legitimacy, I really needed to be an original artist. Well, at the time, I didn't think I could write songs. So I had a friend of mine named Jake Jenkins that was a songwriter, and he supplied most of the songs on that album. But I did get to co-write one song with him. But then after that, after I got inspired, I just really didn't need to work with a co-writer and didn't really have a want to. It was like these songs were pouring out, so I just did the ones that I loved.
I've heard you talk about maybe writing with Leona Williams. Is that something you were going to do but never happened? Or?
No. We did co-write a couple songs, and she's doing a new album that she's releasing one of those on there, and that's pretty cool. She's one of my all-time female vocal
She has
heroes.
I bet she has a few stories to tell as well.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't she, about
Probably
Haggard?
a lot she can't say publicly, too. No, she's an amazing lady.
Now, something I want to talk about. We had Caleb on the program a couple of shows back, I guess, or something. No, it's going to be airing this coming week. But anyway, we were talking about this a little bit, and of course,
Who's Caleb?
I don't know. But her son.
Oh, yes.
Your grandson.
Oh, yes.
And my friend now. I just met him, so I'm good. But no, I'm just it just goes right. It just the musical talent is so interesting. It just falls right down from dad to daughter to your kids, because you have also.
I have two daughters
and
and another son.
Yeah.
And they're all musically gifted
Yeah.
as well.
So
they just
I mean,
don't play out.
is that? I guess that's an inherited thing. I guess I don't. I mean.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe we're the Williams of Texas. I don't know. But I mean, because I mean, legit. I mean, you've got Hank 3. We've got Holly Williams. She's one of my favorites. And then you have other families that genetically just doesn't get passed down. So I'm not sure the ins and outs of all that, but it's certainly a blessing to be able to share music with your family, whether it's in a living room or whether it's on stage. I also like that it's something that's from the heart. It's something that is genuine. My kids didn't get into playing music because, I told them they needed to play or they needed to take lessons. That's just something that came out very organically for them, which has been a nice thing. I mean, it wouldn't have mattered to me if they never played, but it's been a cool thing to share with them for sure.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I've got I had a third cousin. He was a lot older than me. His kids, same thing. I mean, they both were they could pick up anything and play it.
Yeah.
It drove me nuts, because I was always I wanted to play the guitar so bad, and I would go to their house, and he's playing. He's got a bass, and he plays a lap steel, and it's just like, I can't do any. What's going on here? We skipped a generation or something, I didn't have that talent, So, but anyway,
I actually heard you play the guitar and sing. By the way,
when did I do that?
Why or when?
Why did I do that? That's the question. Is why?
Why did you let him hear you?
Why did I let him hear me? That's it. Although I am an inspiring songwriter, and I do have a few songs I'm going to let country listen to, and we're going to see if he can't help me make them better.
Well, he did a podcast with me, so I'm trying to talk him into letting me do one with him.
There you go. Well, actually, that would be. I would love that because of all the people through the years that you've met and interviewed and.
I met a lot of different people.
Yeah.
Some people that were nobodies, some people that were somebodies, Yeah. I guess the biggest person that I ever met, that I thought was the biggest person because I was such a fan, was at Johnny Bush. And that was back in the 80s. And because I wore out, I don't know how many 8-track tapes, and people are going, what is an 8-track tape? But I wore out a lot of those listening to Johnny Bush and Tony Booth too. So, yeah.
Well, I guess for me, I would be curious as to all the artists that you thought, man, this one's going to be big one day, and just never. And I
do have a story that really comes back to bite me. Dan Seals was the guy. He came into the radio station, and I'm going, England, Dan, I am not going to even spend my time. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to do. This guy is never going to be a country artist. I was wrong. You never know. So there was a lesson learned. There. Do you like to cook? I know we talked about this once before about cooking. And of course, he cooks a great cornbread. He talks about comes out of a package, and he just pours it in the adds the egg and the milk, and it's done. So it's
I get a lot of compliments.
A lot of compliments on that.
My wife. But
I like to ask people because a lot of people they're closet cookers. They they have a recipe or they like to. I know I love to cook. I mean that's most time I'm in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Hashing it out, because I got me a little griddle, and that's what I love to do is cook on that griddle. I go nuts on that thing, man. Woo. Anything particular that you like to cook?
I like to cook just about anything. I think that it's a creative outlet for sure. side fact, speaking of Radney Foster, that you can hire him to do, he'll cook for a group of people
A chef.
and he'll play a little show
Wow.
for you acoustically.
Cool.
Yeah, I had no idea until that was so. I don't know if he's still doing that. That was like several years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wrote down my ex-husband's grandmother's recipe for pie, and so I make a pretty mean buttermilk pie.
Yes. Every holiday we get those.
Yeah,
Buttermilk. Wow.
I make them for friends too.
Right.
So.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You know, your mother wasn't a renowned chef by any means.
She don't listen to this podcast, does she, by the way?
Well, yes,
Right.
she does.
Oh, well, you're in trouble now, buddy. Let me tell you.
One time she came in and she said, "You're going to have to eat in the kitchen. It's stuck to the stove." No, that's
I think I've heard that joke before.
Yeah, it's
I think you told that once before.
What's your growing up with a brother and a sister? What's your take on a lot of those experiences as far as food or just sharing childhood with your brother and your sister?
Well, I mean, I think, as with anybody with siblings, I think that, you tend to put yourself in certain categories, that you label each other as being a certain way and you put each other kind of in a certain box. And then as you grow older, you kind of come into yourself a little bit and realize that there's more similarities than what you thought, or maybe there were characteristics about yourself that you had that you kind of had pushed over on a sibling. I didn't realize how empathic we all were. I didn't realize how creative we all were, and didn't realize, how much of that musical ability was inside of all of us, really until I became an adult, and that was pretty cool.
So you and Hillary have never sat down and tried to write together?
No,
Because you talked about how well she inspired you to write. So
she's amazing. There's just a ton of her songs and I've recorded 3 or 4 of her songs on my albums. And really, there's so many more that I wish could get out there because she's just a great, great writer. But co-writing is you have to have a real similar mindset, I think. I think you have to be able to do that kind of give and take. And so far with my songwriting, I think I've just been pretty just stuck in my own. This is my song. I call my songs my snapshots. They're pictures. They're pictures of feelings or a period of time in my life or a moment in my life. And so maybe it's because they're so personal that it's more difficult for me to collaborate. I don't know. But,
thinking about family vacations when y'all were kids, you seem to relish the responsibility that was automatically deferred to you to be the creative, to tell your stories in your 6-year-old voice. And but do you want to say anything about that? But what I'd like to know is, I've never asked you this. When you kids got
where's
out,
he going with this?
I don't know. And I'm asking myself the same thing.
when you got out of earshot of your parents, did you complain vociferously about having to listen to the ABBA tapes over and over and over again?
No. I'm still an ABBA fan.
Yeah.
ABBA's amazing. And actually their story is really kind of incredible because...
Where are they from, ABBA? Where's that?
From Sweden.
Sweden, yeah, okay. Yeah.
And they had been so commercially successful, and they were in a period of time with their career where they were just touring everywhere and doing amazingly, and stopped because they really wanted to focus on making more music and being more creative, which I think is pretty cool, because not a lot of artists do that. They just kind of hit the grind and make more money, and so, but yeah, they're great.
Well, I've really enjoyed this.
Oh yeah, this has been great. Appreciate you being on the podcast with us.
Thanks for listening to The Big Show with Andy Gallo and Country Jim.
This has been a Unicap Media presentation.